Rashford leaving Manchester. His new club already known. Arsenal go all in. Are the Gunners ready to break the bank for Juventus' star? Who will be the new boss of Borussia Dortmund? The decision is already made. Napoli has made Manchester an offer they simply can't refuse. But will the management agree? Chelsea's first big signing? We're talking about this and much more today. These are the top 10 hot news items by this time. So enjoy the watching and let's get started. So, the rumours that Trent Alexander-Arnold was practically already in Madrid appear to be, well, a bit exaggerated. Sky Sports France, those guys who love to spoil everyone's fun, say that there's still a distance between Trent and Real Madrid. And not just any distance, but a clear one. Like the distance between me and Ronaldo's salary. Remember how everyone was shouting that Trent was practically packing his bags and learning Spanish? Well, forget it. Real Madrid, you see, made an initial offer of £20 million. Seriously? For Trent? Liverpool naturally laughed and sent that generous offer. Well, you get the idea. And the funniest part is that Trent apparently wants a salary like Jude Bellingham's. And that, just so you know, is €400,000 a week. Can you imagine? For that kind of money, I'd be ready to run on the right flank myself. But Real Madrid, it seems, aren't ready to splash the cash just yet. They're probably being stingy. And what about Liverpool? Well, Liverpool aren't exactly rushing to fulfill all of Trent's wishes either. Word is, he's demanding at least a 3-year contract and the captain's armband after Van Dijk. Talk about an appetite. But honestly, I'd demand the same in his place. The guy's talented after all. And here's another juicy rumour. Team Talk writes that Trent is ready to stay if he's given everything he asks for. But Liverpool most likely won't be able to compete with Real Madrid. And Florentino, they say, is preparing an €18 million signing bonus for Trent if he becomes a free agent. Anyway, folks, the situation is a complete fog. Trent seems to have one foot in Madrid and the other still at Anfield. He wants money, glory, and the captain's armband. Real Madrid want him, but they don't want to pay. Liverpool want to keep him, but they might not be able to. So, what do you think about all this? Do you believe these rumours? Where do you think Trent will end up next season? Leave your predictions in the comments. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on all the hottest football gossip. Napoli are sitting in their little shop, feeling glum because their beloved Khvicha Kvaratskhelia has skipped off to Paris. And now they're faced with the daunting task of finding a replacement. And then they remember a young promising lad named Alejandro Garnacho from Manchester United. Oh, he's our guy, the Italians decide. But as always, there are a few snags. Manchester United are in no hurry to part with Garnacho, seeing as the kid is the future of the club. But it seems Napoli are ready to go all out to get the Argentine. The Italians are offering a deal that looks like a discount at a department store. You want Garnacho? Then take Osimhen at half price. They shout towards Old Trafford. Victor Osimhen, by the way, has been on Manchester United's wish list for a while now. The Nigerian is a true goal-scoring machine, and they want him in England. But the price? Originally, Napoli valued him at €150 million, but now they're willing to let him go for €70 million if Manchester United hand over Garnacho. But of course, it's not that simple. Manchester United value Garnacho at £65 million, while Napoli are only prepared to shell out £50 million. The £15 million difference is the kind of moment where both sides look at each other and say, "Are you serious?" And this is where the question arises. Should Manchester United even consider letting Garnacho go? The guy is a rising star, and Osimhen, while a great player, isn't exactly a youngster anymore. And there's no guarantee that he'll immediately fit into the team's style of play. But on the other hand, Napoli are promising a discount. You know, like in those ads. Today only, just for you. And then there's Antonio Conte, who's apparently ready to personally drive Garnacho to Naples. Or at least call him up and say, "Hey Alejandro, the pizza's delicious here and the sun shines brighter than in Manchester." And, of course, we can't forget about Chelsea, who, as always, are lurking in the background, waiting for their chance. I mean, what would a transfer saga be without them, right? So, what happens next? Will Manchester United agree to this deal, or will they keep Garnacho and try to sign Osimhen some other way? Or maybe Chelsea will burst onto the scene and surprise everyone. The Blues are once again trying to get their hands on John Duran from Aston Villa. The guy, who's become a real sensation this season, has netted 12 goals in 28 matches. But here's the interesting part. In the summer, the deal was practically at the finish line. Rumour has it that it fell through at 99% due to doubts about the player's attitude and the overall cost. And now, the Londoners are digging into their pockets again. Could it be that Nicholas Jackson has frustrated the management so much with his performances that they're ready to splash out €100 million? How about a price tag of £85 million? Villa clearly know their forward's worth and aren't willing to let him go for peanuts. And then there's West Ham, who also threw their hat in the ring, offering £57 million only to be turned down. Well, it seems Chelsea have decided to kick it into turbo mode and catch up with their rivals in the race for the Colombian. And really, why drag it out? Especially if Emi Martinez and company aren't exactly against making a profit. But let's look at the situation from a different angle. Is Duran really the one to save Chelsea's attack? Let's be honest, investing such a sum in a 21-year-old is either a sign of incredible confidence in his talent or a desperate attempt to somehow plug the hole in the attack. Rhetorical question: how often have these gambles ended in failure? The situation is fueled by insider information. Word on the street is that in recent days, Chelsea have been in active communication with Duran's agent. A new agent? New possibilities? Who knows? But personally, I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming days we hear more rumours about how the deal is 99% off again. Is this becoming their signature style? In any case, Chelsea have 8 days left until the end of the transfer window to get this transfer over the line. Will they manage it? Or will West Ham snatch the young Colombian at the last second? Or maybe Villa will simply decide not to part with their striker. What do you think, folks? Should Chelsea really shell out that kind of money for Duran? So, according to various sources, Saudi Pro League club Al Ahly, dreaming of assembling all the football superstars, is ready to pay €350 million for Vinicius. Not a billion, of course, as earlier headlines claimed. Let's be honest, even fans reading those couldn't really believe it. Seriously, who would splash out that kind of money? But still, €350 million isn't exactly pocket change. The real question here is, will the Madrid camp agree to such a deal? And, more importantly, would Vinicius himself want to leave Europe? There's a lot to think about. On one hand, Vinicius is the face of Real Madrid, a guy who regularly carries the team on his back. But on the other, how often does he find himself in the spotlight for his behavior? Constant complaints about referees, fights on the pitch, battling for justice or against it, and statements like suggesting Spain should be banned from participating in the World Cup. Not exactly modest, is it? Now, imagine him in Saudi Arabia, where their approach to football is calm, measured, and strictly contractual. How would they handle that fiery Brazilian passion? We can already picture the meme. Vinicius passionately arguing with the referee while a Saudi sheikh watches in amazement and offers to raise his salary to €1 billion just to keep him quiet. By the way, this might not just be about the money. Reports suggest that Vinicius' situation is shifting due to shadows being cast by Kylian Mbappé. Yep, Mbappé arrives, Mbappé shines, Mbappé scores, and suddenly the club's main star role is already taken. Does Vinicius now have to settle for second place? Ambitions that high don't like taking the back seat. Vinicius isn't used to being a backup. He wants the crown, the scepter, and the throne, all in one package. Mark my words. All the rumours point to a dramatic conclusion this summer. Today, it's Al Ahly in the mix. Tomorrow it might be Al Nassr. And the day after, Vini might randomly yell from his car window, "I'm staying at Real Madrid forever," or not yell. You never know when suitcases full of euros are on the table. But what do you think? Is this deal realistic? Will Vinicius leave Real, or is this just another winter fairy tale? Guys, what's going on with Manchester United? Casemiro, who just a couple of years ago was an absolute monster in Real Madrid's midfield, now seems to have become a burden for the English giants. Rumour has it that United are trying to offload the Brazilian, slashing his price to a mere £30 million. For a player who moved from Real for £70 million just a couple of seasons ago, this sounds like a Black Friday fire sale. You'd think he'd be a dream signing for any club, but here's the catch. European teams aren't exactly rushing to grab Casemiro with his £350,000 a week wages. Is it really that big of a problem? Apparently not for the Saudi League, as the only concrete interest seems to be coming from there. And what about Besiktas? Oh, right. It turns out they're not even considering the deal. Well, thanks for the suspense, core offside. But who would have thought that 32-year-old Casemiro, once one of the best midfielders in the world, would become a headache for Manchester United? Under Ruben Amorim, who, by the way, only joined the club a couple of months ago, the Brazilian has played a whopping 4 games. Impressive stats, right? It's like buying a luxury car and letting it rust in the garage. And here comes our old friend Cristiano Ronaldo onto the scene. According to press reports, he's actively trying to persuade Casemiro to join him at Al Nassr. Can you imagine their conversations? Hey Casi, ditch that rainy Manchester. We've got sunshine, money, and no worries about your form here. On the other hand, if United don't drop the price further, Casemiro could well stay until the end of the season. And, you know, there's a certain irony in that. The club that was so eager to land the Real Madrid star is now doing everything they can to get rid of him. Is this their new transfer strategy? Buy high, sell low. Bravo, Manchester United. So, what do you think? Is there any chance Casemiro will rediscover his form, or is this the end of his European career? Let me know in the comments, share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the hottest football rumors. And of course, hit that notification bell. While you are doing this, we are moving on to the next news block. Jamal Musiala, Bayern Munich's crown jewel and future star, is close to signing a new contract with the club. But, as always, there are a few sticking points that are dragging out the process. The 21-year-old midfielder, who's already playing like a true top-class player, is ready to stay in Munich for the long haul. According to journalists, they want the contract to run until 2029 or even 2030. But knowing the current realities of football, who actually believes in such long contracts? It's not exactly an oath of allegiance, but rather an attempt by Bayern to protect themselves from sudden offers from England, or even worse, from Saudi Arabia. By the way, the main drama in this story has become the release clause. Initially, Bayern were categorically against the idea. Logically, who would want to put a price tag on a talented player and risk losing him? But Musiala insisted. The result, the contract will include a release clause of 175 million euros. However, it will only be activated, get this, 2 years before the end of the new contract. So, nobody's going anywhere before 2027. And if only 1 year remains until the end of the contract, the release clause will drop to 100 million euros. But that's not all. The financial side of things is a whole other story. Jamal currently earns around 9 million euros a year, but under the new contract, he's promised 25 to 26 million euros a year, which is almost 3 times more. Looking at these figures, you want to ask, Jamal, are you serious? Weren't those 9 million enough for you to live on? Although, okay, this is football, not a lesson in modesty. By the way, Musiala will earn the same as Harry Kane. And that, just so you know, is almost the salary ceiling at the club. But it's not that simple. A large part of Jamal's income will depend on bonuses. For example, if he wins the Ballon d'Or, which frankly sounds like a challenge. But hey, you never know. And the most interesting part, negotiations seem to be nearing completion. According to those same journalists, the main details have already been agreed upon, and the salary issue is just the final battle. Bayern are confident that the deal will be signed within 1 to 4 weeks at most, while Musiala and his representatives insist that everything will be resolved by February. Apparently, they just don't want to drag it out until spring to avoid another wave of rumours. By the way, Jamal seems quite happy in Munich. He's not negotiating with other clubs and dreams of winning the Champions League with Bayern. And here's a question for you. Do you think he'll manage to do it before 2030? Or will 175 million euros become pocket change for someone like Manchester City, and Jamal will set off to conquer England? Anyway, we're waiting for the official announcement, but for now, let us know in the comments what you think of this deal. Is Bayern worth the money? Or rather, is Jamal worth his 25 million euros? Or maybe you see his future somewhere else? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest football rumors. And, of course, hit that like button if you also dream of a salary of at least 9,000. Arsenal are suffering from a goal drought, Gabriel Jesus is out with an injury, and Arteta is on the hunt for a new striker. And then, on the horizon, appears the figure of Dusan Vlahovic, for whom Juventus are supposedly willing to drop the price to a mere 40 million euros. Firstly, this 40 million euro figure comes from Calciomercato. And who are Calciomercato? Well, you know. Italian journalists, masters of spinning intrigue out of thin air. Maybe they just decided to add fuel to the fire, or maybe they have a new sport in Italy. Transfer swings. Up and down, up and down. Secondly, Juventus only want cash. No installments, loans with an option to buy, or bartering for a couple of crates of pasta. Cold, hard cash. And Arsenal, as we all know, are counting every penny. Thirdly, football transfers. Another reliable source reports that negotiations have broken down. I mean, how did they break down? It all started so well. Discounts, Italian sunshine, the prospect of seeing Vlahovic in an Arsenal shirt, and bam, the door slams shut. It's as if someone in Turin suddenly remembered that Vlahovic has a contract until 2026. Speaking of his contract, our Serbian friend earns 12 million euros a year. He is the highest paid player in Serie A, and his performance, well, let's just say it's not always worth the full 12 million euros. Juventus, of course, aren't thrilled with this situation. They've decided to cut costs, you see. Crisis, you understand. And Vlahovic, despite them, doesn't want to curb his financial appetite. And rumour has it that if Vlahovic does not agree to a new, less lucrative contract, Juventus will have to sell him. Otherwise, in 2026, he'll leave for free, like a free spirit. Can you imagine the blow to the egos of the Turin bosses? To sign him for 80 million euros, pay him millions, and then he just ups and leaves, waving goodbye. It is also reported that Arteta is a long-time admirer of Vlahovic. He imagines him in the red shirt, dreams of goals, of victories. But for now, these remain just dreams. Arsenal need to act quickly and decisively in the transfer market. Time is ticking, the transfer window is about to slam shut, and the title is still within reach. Can you imagine the disappointment of missing out on the championship because of a lack of a decent striker? And here, as the cherry on top, comes Team Talk with their insider info. Apparently, Vlahovic himself isn't against a new adventure. He's, you see, open to offers. Well, of course, who would refuse a move to London to play in the Premier League? The only question is, are Arsenal ready to shell out the 65 million euros that Juventus are rumoured to be demanding? Or will they wait until the last day of the transfer window, hoping for a miracle discount? In short, rumours are multiplying, but there's no clarity. What will happen next? Will Arsenal sign Vlahovic? Will they find another option? Or will they be left with a hole in their attack? Manchester United, who seem to have practically tamed the Wolves star, now risk being left empty-handed. And why is that? Because Nottingham Forest have decided that they urgently need the Brazilian magician and are ready to splash out a club record fee for him. Can you imagine? Forest, who, let's be honest, aren't exactly regulars in the Champions League, suddenly decided to compete with the Giants for one of the most coveted pieces on the transfer market. Well, that's bold, you have to admit. Matheus Cunha, the guy with 10 goals to his name, despite Wolves desperately trying not to drown in the depths of the Premier League, is back on United's radar. Although rumour had it that he was almost 1 foot in at Old Trafford in the summer. And now, when it seemed like he was about to sign a hefty new contract with Wolves, other clubs have appeared on the horizon. Arsenal, Chelsea, a couple of other clubs. Everyone wants to get their hands on this Brazilian. Sky Sports, those guys who seem to know everything and everyone, claim that Forest are ready to shell out a whopping £60 million. For that kind of money, in their opinion, Wolves would gladly give up their star. Seriously? Are the Wolves really that desperate? And then there is Fabrizio Romano, who says that Matheus Cunha's relationship with Wolves is, to put it mildly, strained. And that, despite the unsigned contract, he has every chance of waving goodbye to Molineux as early as next week. Arsenal have been eyeing Matheus for a long time, and you can understand why. Who doesn't need a prolific forward, especially when your attack is, well, not always firing on all cylinders, let's say. But here's the thing, the competition for the Brazilian is simply insane. So you start to wonder, what does Matheus Cunha really want? To become the leader of the Wolves, who, no matter how you look at it, are still fighting for survival, or to move to a top club where he might have to fight for his place in the sun? A tough choice, isn't it? It's like being offered a choice between a cozy but slightly shabby apartment and a luxurious penthouse where, however, several arrogant cats are already living. Anyway, folks, this transfer saga promises to be a hot one. who will ultimately snatch the Brazilian wizard from under everyone's noses? United, Arsenal, Chelsea, or maybe even Nottingham Forest? Where do you think Matthias will end up? Write your predictions in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the latest transfer gossip. Because, you know, in this football world, everything changes faster than the weather in England. Nuri Sahin, who just yesterday was the ambitious coach of the Black and Yellows, has stepped down from his position. The loss to Bologna was the final straw, and Dortmund's management decided not to drag things out. Who would have thought that someone with no experience as a head coach could handle a club like this? And really, wasn't it a bit strange to hand over the keys to Borussia to a 36-year-old rookie? A rhetorical question, as they say. So, 27 matches, 12 wins, 4 draws, and a whopping 11 losses. Not particularly impressive, is it? Especially considering that in their last 9 matches, the Black and Yellows managed just 1 win. In the Champions League, they still have a shot at making the playoffs, but on the domestic front, it's a complete slump. If Dortmund were playing chess instead of football, Sahin might have become a master of draws. But that's not the case here. Now to the most interesting part. Who will replace him? The main candidate was Erik ten Hag, the former Manchester United coach. On paper, he seemed perfect. Experienced, ambitious, and even friends with Matthias Sammer. But here's the catch. According to Sky Sports News, the Dutchman declined the offer. Apparently, he's not eager to take on mid-season problems, and honestly, you can't blame him. Want to know why he was in the stands during the match against Bayer? Maybe just to see how not to play. Dortmund is now eyeing Sebastian Hoeneß from Stuttgart. Sure, bringing him in would cost around 7 to 8 million euros, but at least it's a concrete option. Or will they just grab someone off the street again? I wouldn't be surprised if the next press conference announces that the team will be coached by a local barista. So who do you think will become Borussia's next head coach? Share your predictions in the comments. Marcus Rashford, it seems, is already packing his bags for Barcelona. Or is he? So, journalist Tony Juan Martí reports that before the Champions League match with Benfica, Rashford's entourage met with Deco. The goal? To convince the Catalans that Marcus is their ticket to a bright future. They say that the parties have almost agreed on personal terms. And what about Rashford himself? He sees Barça as the perfect place to reboot his career after losing trust at Manchester United under Ruben Amorim. But it's not that simple. Barcelona, as always, is having money troubles. Despite the club returning to the 1-to-1 rule in La Liga, they simply don't have the cash for Rashford's salary. And that, by the way, is 9 million euros for half a year. Right now, Barça is frantically searching for ways to lighten their payroll. For example, selling Eric Garcia, Girona is apparently ready to shell out 10 million for him, or Ansu Fati. But who will buy him if interest is almost zero? By the way, according to Relevo, Rashford has asked Barça for guarantees that the deal will happen in January. After all, if the Catalans can't find the money, the Englishman is ready to consider other options. It's like saying, I love you, but I can't wait forever. Nevertheless, Sport claims that Marcus has given preliminary agreement to a loan until the end of the season. Now it remains to be seen if Manchester United will agree to cover part of his salary. Otherwise, goodbye La Liga dream. In general, the story with Rashford is a classic example of Catalan problems. Every year it's the same thing. They want to sign a star, but their budget is like a student's at the end of the month. And Marcus, by the way, earns 18 million euros a year. Yes, that's after taxes. And yes, Barça wants MU to pay at least half. Funny? Very? Realistic? We'll see. Rashford, by the way, has already directly stated that he is ready to wait until the last day of the transfer window. He dreams so much of playing in La Liga that he is ready to take a risk. And finally, will there be a buyout clause in the contract? That remains a mystery. But we know one thing, Rashford is waiting for Barça to sort out their financial mess. What do you think? Is this risk justified? Will Marcus raise his career at Barça, or is this just another episode of a soap opera?